Hello there. I'm Rachel. I'm the business operations manager at KARANA. And we're going to talk a little bit about some questions that we get when we're talking to new investors, interested consumers, and food service businesses. I'm here with the co-founders, Blair and Dan. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Blair. I'm one of the co-founders. Fresh in from Asia, so flew in last night in the Bay Area right now. So excuse me if I'm a little jaded and tired and
Just a little
sort of
bit.
get lost halfway through a sentence, but looking forward to the discussion today.
Yeah, I'm Dan, the other co-founder. We're super passionate about all things food, jackfruit, sustainable agriculture, and just looking forward to diving more into the intersection of all those topics and how we see KARANA playing a role in shaping space.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions that we've been discussing a lot lately, and I think has been really big in the space, is plant-based dead? I know Blair has some interesting opinions about like whether that's true in the context of places outside of the US, and I would like to dig into that a little bit further.
Yeah, so obviously we're biased. We don't think it is dead. That's why we're here. But I think there has been a lot of concern and pushback, and some of it rightfully so. But I think there's a few things we have to look at here in examining this. So I kind of break it into a number of areas. So firstly, we a lot of this discussion, like Rachel just alluded to, is very US-centric in its discussion. But if we look outside the US, actually plant-based is doing pretty well in places like Europe. It's also growing in Asia, though it's very nascent in Asia, but there is increasing interest. Secondly, I think a lot of the discussion has been focused around one public company. That's all there is in this space, is one company, and their numbers haven't been great. They're part of a wider market dynamic. And so, I think it's a little bit harsh to judge an entire industry based on one company. But there are some points that are coming out of this, and that, perhaps some of the offerings that are on the market aren't really speaking to what consumers want. And that's where, we're trying to do something a little bit different at KARANA in terms of offering products that have shorter ingredient lists, are more transparent, and a bit more diverse, and rather than a whole load of products that are all very similar that maybe aren't what consumers want. Another thing I think, third thing to think about here is what data is being used, because if you look at the category a little bit more closely, it hasn't been doing that well in certain areas. So, for example, refrigerated plant-based food, plant-based meats have not been doing that well, but frozen. The frozen category has been doing better, and like ready meals and ready to cook has also been doing okay. That's within retail. And then if you look at food service, which is where we are playing in, we see some of the biggest food service operators in the world really kind of doubling down on plant-based. If I look at just two examples, Aramark and Sodexo. So they're two of the world's biggest catering companies. They run catering operations at corporate campuses, Facebook, Google, Apple, etc., as well as many university and college campuses. And they have both recently come out and said, we're going to do a certain percentage of our menu as being plant-based. And that's really responding to both the consumer demands as well as ESG initiatives of the many of their clients. And so we see that demand growing a lot. And then just taking a kind of an overall step back, we've got to look at the macroeconomic picture as well, right? Inflation is here and it's hitting people hard. And so people are kind of, I guess, rationalizing a lot on what they spend on, and plant-based is still an expensive category, and so costs need to come down. And with that, I do see a lot of potential for the industry. And we're also actually seeing costs of some other products coming up, and so it might hit that. And there was also a bit of an anomaly during COVID times where you had shortage of many meat products, so plant-based purchasing jumped, and also a lot more people spending time at home and thinking about health and so on. And now that's kind of normalized, so we're seeing some rationalization. So I think for many of these factors are sort of means that that there is still a second win in plant-based. And actually, recently someone likened this really well. They used the analogy of iPhones. So the first two iPhones, they were very successful. They were groundbreaking products, but it wasn't really until iPhone 3 that iPhone really took off, and that changed things for the phone industry. And we can almost say that's the same thing with plant-based. We're still in very early stages of development. There's not a huge variety of products out there, and in some ways, KARANA likes to position ourselves as the third generation or the next generation of plant-based meat, using different ingredients, offering a differentiated product offering. And we make a meat from jackfruit versus soy or wheat, which is where a lot of the plant-based products are coming from right now. And in fact, 4 crops make up 60% of our farm calories, and that's creating a lot of issues with food security and so on. And so, and those are the crops that are facing a lot of inflationary pressures as well. So I do think there's a real opportunity in the future. I mean, that's putting aside all the food security, the challenges our food system faces. Anyway, Dan, I think
I mean, like with everything, there's an adoption curve for a new category. There's your early adopters, and it gets to mainstream consumers, the product's requirements, the consumer demands shift, and the features need to change the product. And I think what we're seeing is the next evolution starting of plant-based products that, I mean, consumers have high expectations. Most consumers are not intending to become vegan. They're looking to reduce their meat consumption. They're looking to, nourish themselves and their families in a healthy way. They're looking to really understand what is the sustainability impact, what is this doing for future generations. There's more understanding of the nuance of the issues in our food system. And so ingredients that resonate around that, people are looking for transparency. They want to be more connected. We're so disconnected to what we're eating, where our food is coming from. So I think what we try and tell, always being a very ingredient-centric company and product, really focusing around jackfruit as our hero ingredient, is something that we see a lot of starting to emerge. Some other cool brands in the space doing interesting things centered around new ingredients. And so I think as this new generation, as you're mentioning, Blair, starts to emerge, you're going to see definitely, a revamp and excitement around plant-based, but it comes from making it convenient. This is also not a trend. Food trends don't just come in and change the market overnight. If you look at how an industry like craft beer evolved, it took a long time, people going and visiting breweries, experiencing new product formats with bartenders and in restaurants. And that's very much how we're positioning and looking at chefs as champions to really help get people excited and have people experience, a new range of plant-based, especially ingredient-focused plant-based products in a variety of formats. And so, a huge opportunity in food service and new channels, huge opportunity to tell new and different ingredient stories. And that's something that we do through KARANA, but we also see, a big opportunity to help support the rest of the industry, plant-based, and a lot of new and novel ingredients that are coming to market. And, tell a really compelling story using a crop like jackfruit that really supports the kind of food system that we need and want to be transitioning towards.
Yeah, no, kind of to that point, you both touched on this, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you bring the plant-based product to market, given all of these different tailwinds, headwinds, and trends that are coming together in this very interesting moment in plant-based food.
Yeah. So, I mean, we always like to say at KARANA that, our products are made for chefs by chefs, and we see chefs as the champions who are going to help, cement this industry and help drive the shift towards a new way of eating that is, less focused on meat at the center of the plate. And I think both Blair and I Blair grew up in Hong Kong. I've spent, most of my adult life in various parts of Southeast Asia. So I think, you've had this mock meat, vegetarian meat, largely soy and wheat-based, product-based there for a long time. You've had a very significant meat alternative industry and portion of the population. So I think we've always understood the need for new and differentiated products there, and getting the education, getting people to find new and exciting ways to experience those products and showcase that we're bringing something different to the market. So really leveraging our internal culinary team, like our head of culinary, Hazela, all the amazing chef partners, launching in very food-centric markets, Singapore first, Hong Kong, now the Bay Area. We've been doing pop-ups and starting soon in LA, in New York. So really going where, the food trends are originating, sitting close to consumers through chefs, understanding what's happening, where the trends are driving from, how, it resonates to put products on menus, what kind of dishes, flavors, recipes are working. That all is really, it leads to great learnings for us and allows us to really connect with consumers in a way that we wouldn't have by just having retail products.
I think touching on that consumer piece as well is, and this goes back to what we were discussing earlier about is plant-based dead, is that, consumer preferences are evolving and they want more choice. And right now they're not getting that within plant-based. And so, part of what the very essence of bringing any product to market is listening to the consumer, and that's what we've done. And so, we have a product offering that has a shorter ingredient list, more transparency. It's healthy, but it also tastes amazing. I mean, that's most important, right? And our product is unbelievably meaty, but it's made from jackfruit. That's very simple. It's easy to understand. That's the core of our product. And then, we have a few other, ingredients that enhance that sensory experience, and keep it simple, and then present that in formats that consumers want. So, we've been working, we have our meat as our base, but then we've also developed a whole range of ready to cook convenience SKUs that, also are doing very well in food service, because food service increasingly has labor challenges, and they want convenience. But as we look to the future to retail, and as we also are now in some discussions with some co-brand partners, it's really giving them that ready meal, that experience, that something that's convenient, that's familiar, that they can just heat up, and it's differentiated from what's on the market right now. So both in the ingredient offering, but then also in the product offering, it's not just another burger or another chicken nugget. No disrespect to, some of these products are fantastic, but there's a lot of them now. And to grow the pie, you've got to grow the choice as well. And so I think that's an important thing when we think about bringing products to market, is like, well, where's the gap? What do consumers want?
And that flexibility is really core to what we do, and giving chefs the agency to decide whether they want to use jackfruit on their menu as a plant-based meat, as a specific dish, and learning from that through their lens, but also the experience of going to market in three very distinct and unique food-centric markets has given us huge amount of insight into just the range of directions that this can go, and what works, what doesn't. So really it's about having that flexibility, that versatility, and creating a creative canvas for chefs, for other product innovators to bring a new ingredient, a new format to market. Because taste is very nuanced and varies a lot across a lot of different places. Taste can mean different things around texture, around flavor, around experience, the cultural nuance associated with what that dish is that someone's eating. So, giving flexibility and being able to adapt to a wide variety of tastes, and a product that is very easy to make delicious. That's what's always been really important for us. As well as, just really celebrating that transparency, that connection to real ingredients. Transparency is universal across consumers, chefs. Everyone wants to know what they're eating, what they're putting in their body, and that's something that we can really tell a different story around than a lot of other ingredients.
Yeah, how does KARANA achieve that transparency? Like, what does KARANA do that's so different than some other jackfruit company?
I think there's a lot of, there's not a lot. That's the unfortunate thing. A lot of people pioneering jackfruit, because it's a pretty difficult supply chain and product to work with, and really We've learned a lot from, working with our partners and farming network in Sri Lanka, looking at a lot of different other places where jackfruit has been used traditionally, tasting a lot of really amazing classic preparations of jackfruit in Indonesia, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Vietnam. We've tried it all. And, when you look at how jackfruit has been used traditionally versus the formats it's usually available in other markets and to chefs, there's a gap. And so we very much wanted to showcase that versatility and bring out that ability to turn into a lot of different things. And that involves a certain level of technology, but again, trying to keep it very true to that ingredient focus, and understanding that this is a supply chain that has been developed and built via indigenous populations, very sort of traditional agroecology farming systems, and show that that's something to celebrate, and that you can utilize technology to scale that from a supply chain sourcing standpoint, but also through product development, just how we work with the jackfruit, how we're able to get it into the format that we do, the meat that we turn it into really brings it to market in a way that is totally different from anything else in the market. And we get that feedback just continuously that this is a lot of resistance to jack because people maybe had an underwhelming experience before with the jackfruit product. So we really want to show that what KARANA's doing is different and bring something really new to the table, quite literally.
Yeah. Does KARANA source? Does KARANA product develop? What do we do?
Yeah, well, I think what makes us really powerful as a company is we sit across that whole value chain. We have a great team on the ground in Sri Lanka, where we source most of our jackfruit from. We work directly, all the way up to the farmer level. We're always looking at how we can better understand, better help, improve their lives from a yield standpoint, getting crop to market more efficiently. Jackfruit is a very underutilized crop generally. It's largely wasted in a country like Sri Lanka. We estimate that upwards of 60%, doesn't reach the market in any format. What you have in Sri Lanka is a very interesting situation where you have a lot of old growth jackfruit trees. It's actually illegal to cut down a jackfruit tree, even if it's on your property, because of the significance, its role in the local ecosystem, its role in food security. And so a lot of farmers or communities will plant a basket of high value crops around the jackfruit trees. So they'll grow cacao, turmeric, vanilla, very premium crops, and they focus on those. And the jackfruit is largely forgotten. They use it to shade the crops. They benefit from the soil quality that the jackfruit root system supports. So it's a great, biodiversity supporting, intercrop friendly tree crop to leverage. But the jackfruit itself is generally not being valorized in any significant way. So that's where, we kind of extend throughout that whole value chain through how we process it, from post-harvest all the way through turning it into the meat, turning it into the final value-added products like the dumplings and lots of other exciting things that we're working on. And then sitting very close to chefs, having our own chefs on our team in all markets, really digging into how does this get interacted with, this is how we've developed the product. We always sort of took jackfruit in the forms that we could get it in, and then what we could turn it into, got that in front of chefs, and partly just testing and playing around in the kitchen, but also always going as quickly as we could into real world tests, getting that into the market, getting chefs buying it, putting it on their menus. So we see how they really interact with it on an operational level in the kitchen, fit it into from Michelin star down to fast casual and beyond. And really, understanding what we need to do to get into the format that's as accessible, intuitive, easy for them to work with as possible. So there's a lot that's gone into, bringing jackfruit to market from tree to table, so to speak.
And we do it all.
We leverage a really good partner network as well. I mean, I think we like to do the things that we're really good at, but we keep a close eye on it all and look for, where we can, because there's a lot to leverage naturally with jackfruit and support this great farming system and scale this in a more distributed, decentralized way. Scaling farming in the way that we think it should be scaled, not building another monoculture industrial farming system, but really showing that you can scale something, leveraging what already exists and finding the areas along that value chain where it makes sense to invest and bring technology in.
Yeah. Well, Blair, could you tell us a little bit more about the traction that we're experiencing on the commercial side, how those commercial tests have been going, and what product formats seem to be resonating the most with our customers, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so we're still in the very early stages of our commercialization, but we have been having some great traction so far. So we have initially focused just on food service, so that's selling to restaurants and catering companies. So we initially launched in Singapore and Hong Kong, where the company was started, and earlier this year we launched in the US. And we have worked in every market we've worked in. We've partnered with Michelin-starred chefs who've never used a meat alternative before, and so that speaks volumes to the quality of the product, and also that this shorter ingredient list, more transparent, sourcing story, etc., resonates and is what they're looking for. And then we've moved beyond that now. We're starting to move beyond that into sort of higher volume food service. So we recently have won a couple of institutional accounts, so corporate and college campuses, as well as some multi-unit chains. So really starting to move the needle there on volume, which is very exciting for us. And then in terms of the product mix, so it really depends. Like I said, we are seeing increased demand for value add, and so that's really because restaurants or the food service industry in general is facing labor shortages, the challenge of time and investment into sort of R&D is not there as much as it used to be, and so they're looking for solutions, and that's what we're starting to provide more and more of. So we started with our Asian appetizers, so our pot sticker or gyoza, that has really started to be picked up and starting to sell quite well. And now we are in the process of launching some more value add SKUs, so both within that Asian appetizer category, like spring rolls and bows, but then also within food service, things like meatballs, patties, and so on, so that really just making that sort of very simple. But then on the flip side, there are some chefs, particularly at the higher end, that just want to use the mince and or the ground meat and use that to be creative, and so that's also getting some pretty good reception. And more recently, we started to look more at that B2B space as well. So, that's working with other brands and being powered by KARANA, almost like that Intel Inside model, to enable them to have a plant-based offering. And so we're in some fairly late-stage discussions on that side, where it would be a product brought to market, a CPG product brought to market under another with another brand's brand, but with sort of a co-branding with KARANA or powered by KARANA. And that sort of versatility of the product is what's exciting to them, because it can be used in lots of applications. And so, yeah, we're excited about that. And continuing to build that sort of pipeline of innovation. We are really changing the game for jackfruit. I mean, going back to the question earlier, is like, where does KARANA sit? I mean, we are an innovation company, and we sit across the value chain and have innovated at every point of the way. But really, jackfruit as a crop has had very little innovation, and we have innovated around it and brought to the market something that changes the game there. And it's changing the game for jackfruit and for plant-based, because we now can offer something that competes on taste and texture, but also is shorter ingredient list and transparent and whole plant forward, it's jackfruit is the core of the product. That is the main ingredient.
And the underlying supply chain that we're supporting, again, supporting small farmers who've been practicing this kind of farming system, without relying on fertilizers, irrigation for a long time, supporting biodiversity, building more equity into supply chains and our food system, supporting soil health. A tree crop, jackfruit is grown in a traditional regenerative agroecology setting, like just exactly, we're running out of quality soil. Like we're really digging ourselves into a literal grave in terms of what we're doing to our soil with fertilizer use. So these are existential issues that we need to address. And it's showing that, jackfruit has been around for a long time, but hasn't been commercialized or utilized in the way that other crops that are farmed in a much more destructive way, really the opposite of how jackfruit is grown, have been. And so we want to show that you can do all these things using jackfruit and build a much better supply chain behind it. And again, we want to be a tool for other players in the industry. We, like Blair was saying, we get a lot of interest from people who have kind of avoided a lot of the plant-based products up to this point. We get a lot of interest from producers of a wide range of value-added products who are now just starting to be interested in offering a vegan, vegetarian, plant-based SKU, and love the idea of a jackfruit, a more natural, more ingredient-centric, or using an ingredient that supports this kind of system, and are finding very creative ways and working with us to find ways to incorporate that into very established products. And that's really exciting for us to see.
Yeah, and just to round out our conversations, I think we got to talk about a lot of the things that we're excited about with KARANA. Why start with jackfruit? Why would we do this type of fruit instead of another ingredient? Like, I'm sure you guys dug into a bunch of different types of ingredients as you decided to focus on jackfruit. So
yeah, I mean, I think we both speak. I think there's for me 3 reasons why, and I think we're both aligned on this. And Dan, add it if I miss anything. I think firstly, it is the need to create a more diversified food system. We need to transform our food system from a sustainability perspective. I said it earlier. We rely on 4 crops, make up 60% of our farm calories. That's soy, rice, maize, and wheat. Yeah, and so that's causing a lot of issues, both from sustainability, because they're generally grown in monocrop formats that take from the soil, as well as food security. I mean, we've seen that recently with the Ukraine war. That massively disrupted global wheat supplies, and it's what's kicked off this whole round of inflation in food. And so, one is that ability to transform the food system. Secondly, it's about giving consumers more choice, right? We talked about consumers wanting more options, so it gives them more choice. And because of the inherent nature of the jackfruit, it's naturally got this fibrous texture that's very meaty. Combined with our technology platform that we built to enhance that texture, we can offer a product that has that taste and experience of meat, but with a much shorter and cleaner ingredient list. And we definitely saw that need as we started this out, is that we saw consumers demanding this, not just within plant-based, across the board, that trend for better for you products. And then finally was, we do recognize that, to build something that is game-changing, that we need to have some scale, right? We can't just, pick a nice little, niche ingredient that doesn't have the ability to scale. Jackfruit and is highly scalable. It is a crop of the future. It's very high yielding. So jackfruit currently yields 3 to 4 times what soy and wheat does on a per hectare basis. And like with some of the work we're doing around, enhancing those yields and with partnering with farmers to do that, we think we can get those yields even higher. So, it is a crop of the future, and it is grown in a sustainable and regenerative manner. And so, we latched onto that inherent scalability, its ability to make great products, and its ability to answer many of the most pressing issues in our food system.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, that was very much the framework that we approached in looking at ingredients. It's, and we always call it, refer to this. I think it's really important to differentiate when we talk about our value chain and keep centering the conversation around value versus supply chain, which implies, a very extractive kind of approach, which is how much of our food system is built around. And really, is this a crop that, is adding value, on a local community level, from a sustainability standpoint, supporting biodiversity, regenerating the soil, providing, not purely extracting something, but providing a new source of income, of value to the communities and the farmers where it's grown? Is it telling a better nutrition story for consumers? And yeah, can we turn it into great products at scale? And can we build that offtake? Because identifying the ingredients in the crops is one thing, and there's a huge tab. I think, there's 300,000 edible plant species, which we consume a pathetically tiny fraction of. So there's a lot to tap into, but at the end of the day, we do have a large, complex, industrialized food system. So it's finding that balance between scaling those crops in the way that aligns with our values and is generating value, both ways, but still has offtake, still has, a market that we can build around the world. And so that was really finding that balance and doing that in a way that product and crop we felt good about scaling.
Yeah, well, amazing. Thanks, guys. We're hoping to continue these conversations moving forward. But if you would like to reach Dan or Blair, you can email them at dan@eatkarana.com or blair@eatkarana.com. Thanks.
Thank you.